People see us everywhere. They think you really care. But myself I can't deceive. I know it's only make-believe.
Hello, and welcome to the pilot episode of Will You Accept This, Prose? The hot and fresh Bachelor analysis podcast that everyone is asking for.
Clamoring for.
Absolutely. They're just so hungry for it, and luckily, we are here to give it to you. I am Max Churchwell, your author host.
I'm Kenzi Brenton, your analyzer host.
So our goal here is to, of course, watch The Bachelor, but analyze how it is manipulated, how the show and the contestants are manipulated by the producers and the editors of this show in order to create your narrative staples, ongoing storylines, character archetypes, general conflict, I suppose. You know, let me explain our honorifics, our nom de plumes there. So I am your author host because, well, let's just address this. I'm not an author, gang. I'll admit it. I'll be the first one to say it. But I am a creative writing major at the University of Central Arkansas. And I'd like to think that at least gives me some authority in speaking on the narrative efforts from the Bachelor producers.
Written narratives.
I'm unpublished. And Kenzi, how about you explain your analyzer title?
Right, so I am an English major at UCA and are discussing how character archetypes show up in different literature, how narratives are played with, and in my many papers that I've written, a lot of them have focused on how authors play with gender in their respective work. And I think that The Bachelor is rich in that because the producers, the editors, they also have a big hand in writing this narrative, this reality TV show narrative.
And there are certainly some, especially on the season we are going to be discussing, which is Jason Mesnick's season from 2009. Back then, the sort of implication of gender stereotypes was even more blatant and relied upon with a show like this.
They're rough, gang.
They get pretty rough. The Bachelor producers and editors are really roughhousing here. I do want to go ahead and address another fact about my role here. I proposed this podcast to Kenzi in order to fulfill the requirements of a class project. So, Dr. Vanderslice, if you're listening, listen, you okayed it. I asked if it would count as literary citizenship, and you said yes. Kenzi signed on to it because she is, I assume, masochistic, maybe really into that.
I'm just a good friend, Max.
You make a good point, and I do appreciate your help. I think the only other thing I really want to address up front now is our theme song, which, if you did not recognize it, it is Only Make Believe by Mr. Conway Twitty. So, sorry if anybody is just really die-hard and thinks there really is no better way to fall in love than the Bachelor process, which is something that's said so much on this show.
Yes, the journey.
The journey. Excuse me. We're not allowed to call it a process, actually.
Yeah,
that's against the rules.
Until Peter's season.
Yeah, I was going to say, the most recent season of The Bachelor is really going against the norms, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're going to talk about this wretched 2009 season where so many mistakes and bad decisions are made.
Gosh.
And yeah, we're going to be just poking fun all the way. We're going to cover Jason Mesnick's season of The Bachelor. And we are covering that season specifically because that is the only season that is available on Netflix. And that seems like the most accessible streaming platform because otherwise you would have to have a subscription specifically to an ABC streaming thing, maybe Or
When are they gonna put The Bachelor on Disney Plus?
they have to at some point, right? They can. Give it to us, Mickey.
I gotta. This is what we want. The mouse would never.
He doesn't have the guts. So yeah, we're going to be covering that season. It's worth noting we have watched the season before, but it's been a minute since we have.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, and we'll be sure not to spoil anything, or at least anything big.
Yeah, we're gonna do our best throughout this to pretend that we're watching it for the first time. So if you decide to watch it at home, just know that every time you laugh or gasp or cry, or weep, we're probably doing that too. As far as producer influence goes, there's a lot to really just kind of scrape the surface with that. So, Kenzi, do you want to talk at all about how the contestants on this show actually live?
Yeah, so these women on the Bachelor, the women, they're all in this big mansion, the Bachelor Mansion, where they essentially, I think it's 5 women per room,
Sounds right.
where they're essentially isolated from everything. So they don't have phones. Their phones are taken from them. They can't watch TV. They can't know what's going on in the world.
It kind of makes me think of a combination between the regular people in Fahrenheit 451 and the regular people in The Giver. I think they fall in the middle of that Venn diagram.
Yeah, because they also, I think in recent years they've started allowing this, but before they weren't allowed to have books.
Yeah.
They couldn't read, they couldn't watch movies. No way to really. Well, they had no outlet.
Yeah.
They also, when they weren't on camera, they were discouraged against interacting with each other. They couldn't interact with each other when they weren't on camera because they can't have character development happen off screen.
Yeah, and, well, I mean, they don't want you doing fucking anything if you aren't fighting. That's more or less the gist of it.
Yeah.
They are crammed into this house. They are not allowed to do anything other than, I guess, meditate or attempt to have civil conversations. There are some contestants who do form a more genuine friendship with other contestants.
And those are always very fun to see.
Absolutely. They can be even more heartwarming than the connection between the Bachelor and, whoever ends up being their partner. Because, I mean...
He said they can be. I've got to argue that they always are.
And really, that's fair, because, that's not what they're there for, and I would argue they are encouraged to not do that. They are kind of set up to oppose each other, to constantly be working against each other. And that comes from both, they aren't allowed to do anything, really. They're all crammed into this small house. I think one thing the producers really do that sort of drives the tension up is, in order to protect their audio quality, they do not run the air conditioning or heating unit, depending on which season it is.
Yep.
They don't run either of them in the house.
Yeah, which is crazy to me. Just especially in the hotter months, on Bachelor in Paradise, especially you're sitting there in the heat. It ramps up tensions. You get angry.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, well, now there's another ulterior motive on Bachelor in Paradise, and that's people wear less clothes when they're particularly hot.
That's fair.
There is so much being done from the very beginning to sort of prime people, get people all revved up for conflict. And as conflict is the hottest part of this show, there's a ton of it in the little season teaser they do at the beginning of this first episode to sort of give you an idea of what's to come. And Kenzi, what exactly is included in that teaser?
So the season teaser, it's starts off with a recap of what happened in the last Bachelorette, which is where Jason Mesnick, our Bachelor, came from. So he was the runner-up in Deanna's season. And so now he's on as the Bachelor of this season. So they talk about, the first thing they say about him is that he's a single dad, and they do not let you forget it.
Not once.
Because he talks about his son all the time, which, I mean, it's fair, it's your kid, like,
Yeah.
you're gonna talk about him. But they really, the show pushes it as well, because he was the first parent to star as the lead on one of these shows.
And it took him until season 13, yeah?
Yeah. Well, they had a parent before they had a person of color, so...
Hey, they got one of them. But what all's in this teaser, other than him being a father, which is in everything?
They've got that. They talk about the proposal. They show when he proposed to the Bachelorette on his season, which is whack, because he has to, like, get down on one knee, do his whole, like, love spiel, and she has to let him do it, and then say no.
Well, now, to be fair, I don't know if they have to let them do it. I imagine it's very strongly encouraged, but in this recap, doesn't Deandra say something about... I don't know, I thought she said something about she couldn't just stop him or whatever. I could be remembering that wrong.
Well, there was they did show a clip from there after the final rose when he asks, "Why did you let me propose?" And she says that she was so caught up in the moment.
Yeah. Which is whack. It's still whack. All right. What do we have about this season?
We also have a lot of out of context drama.
Oh, of course.
So they've got a bunch of snippets and clips of like dates that these women go on with Jason. A lot of audio clips that have no content. You have no idea what's going on, and yet it sounds like something really crazy and dramatic is happening.
Well, it has to.
Yeah, I mean, one of the dates that they go on, and spoiler alert because we've seen the season, is a soap opera date where they essentially go to the set of a soap opera, and I think it was General Hospital, and they use a lot of audio from that in these teasers to make it sound like there's more crazy drama than there actually is, because, yeah, it's a soap opera.
Well, and they show things out of context of, like, you'll hear the women say something about, oh, they are just going at it, or whatever, and then you have Jason and a contestant making out without the established context of it being relatively staged.
Yeah. But, yeah, let's talk about the women on this show.
Let's do it. There are... I don't know if there's any women that come off as great in just this first episode. There are some that seem all right.
Not in the first episode. There's one in particular that didn't seem great in this first episode, but we learn later that she's the most wonderful person to ever exist.
Yes, and what made her seem not great is the little featurette, the biographical promo package that they show for each of these women. Her little featurette did not make her look great. And why is that, Kenzi?
Well, Stephanie immediately began talking about her deceased husband.
Yep.
And, I mean, this is a very serious thing, and not at all are we making fun of or making light of her situation and the grief that she went through.
Yeah.
But it's just the way that it was portrayed in this featurette. She said a few times that Jason reminded her of her dead husband. Her husband would want her to do this.
And I believe she does specifically say that Daddy's up there in heaven telling
let
me.
Tell you. Oh.
not the flight.
That was something different.
Yeah,
but
not how he got to heaven, but what he is saying from heaven, I believe, is brought up.
But speaking of that, so her husband died about 3.5 years ago, in a plane crash. What we see in this featurette, so Stephanie is talking to her daughter, who is, I believe, 10 weeks old when her father died. But Stephanie says to her, Daddy took a flight to heaven.
Took a flight to heaven.
Took a flight to heaven. There was a better way you could have said that, Stephanie.
Almost certainly, huh?
But yeah, it just came off very strange in this first episode. It was so weird.
Yeah, because, I mean, someone to talk about coming from a very difficult or traumatic romantic past, like, that's super common on The Bachelor and that entire family of product. But for it to specifically be, my spouse died, but the Bachelor/Bachelorette reminds me so much of them, and I know they're up there in heaven wanting me to do this. Man, that's a lot, Stephanie.
Yeah. So, another woman that gets a featurette is Jillian. And Jillian, we have nicknamed Hot Dog Lady, and we'll get into that later.
It's a lot.
But right now I just want to mention a quote that she had in her featurette. Well, she's a restaurant designer. She's an interior designer for restaurants. So she's a hard working woman, but she has said, "I work hard, I play hard. I'm kind of like a polished hick."
Polished hick.
Kind of like a polished hick. She's from Canada.
She's from Canada. Now, I do want to note, if I'm remembering correctly, I made a big fuss about how this had to be included in the podcast. And I just want to make clear, it's because that is one of the... I can't say if it's one of the most accurate, but it seems like a very self-aware, almost to the point of self-deprecating description of oneself. Yeah. And I don't think we really get a lot of those on this show. I think that's one of the few where a person sort of took something that generally has a negative connotation and was like, yeah, no, I'm a slightly better version of that.
Yeah, I love that. So another woman that gets a featurette is Renee. And Renee does vision boards.
Yep. Yes, she does.
She really believes in vision boards. Like, her featurette, it's all about, she's sitting there cutting out, different photos from magazines and putting it on her vision board so she can really picture her future, and it will come true.
Yeah.
That's what she says. Like, she doesn't just believe it. Mm-hmm. Like, it will come true.
For those of you that are unfamiliar with vision boards, basically, you take a bunch of pictures or somehow meaningful visual aids, more or less, and the intention of it is really just to remind you what you're working for. And it's not supposed to be a this will come to me thing, it's more of a this is what I'm going for thing. However, this particular believer in vision boards also believes in something called the law of attraction, which pretty much just says if you want something hard enough, you get it. But alright, we can talk more about Vision Board Lady later on. Who else did we get a good featurette of?
So we got Jackie was another one, and Jackie, she's a wedding planner. She talks a lot about, finally wanting to plan her own wedding, and we'll get into some whack stuff with her later. What's important to know right now is that she was married before and she got divorced. We also have Dominique. Dominique is from a Pennsylvania mining town. A tiny, tiny little town in the middle of nowhere. My only note for her is annoying as hell, because she does have the most, like, super stereotypical voice for, like, someone who would be on The Bachelor.
You're straight out of a Looney Tunes episode.
Yeah.
Love interest style voice.
Yes, and one of her quotes when she's talking about all the men in her town, which I believe she describes as duds.
As compared to Jason, who will hopefully be a stud.
Yes, and which we will determine by the end of this season.
To be decided.
But she says, some of them can't even afford the $3.50 matinee, and does this big dramatic eye roll.
Yeah, had to include some
mockery of those that are having a harder time financially. That's not a great move. That's not your best. Hi, America. This is me.
Yeah.
Did you really want to lead with that, though?
Then we get one for Melissa, who is a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, or she was at least. But then we have Nikki, who was, or she's a pageant girl. She has, she takes care of her nieces and nephew a lot, which, she believes has prepared her for motherhood, which comes up a lot with these women, because Jason is a father.
Of course.
And last one is Lauren, and I don't remember much from her featurette. I just remember she's very obsessed with herself. She thinks she's wonderful.
Yeah.
Which is that, yeah, I love the confidence.
Absolutely. And confidence becomes cockiness at some point. One of these things is attractive, the other is not.
Yeah. Max, would you like to describe what the limo exits are all about?
Limo exits. One of my favorite parts of any season of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Basically, the contestants come in. Well, they come in, obviously, in a limo. And their first opportunity to meet the Bachelor and make a good impression on him is pretty much getting out of this limo, walking the 15 or 20 feet to him, and then talking to him for like a minute and a half at most. And what's fun about the way limo exits were done back in 2009 is that rather than, a limo carting in one person and them doing whatever and then going to get the next person, they would just bring them in batches. They would bring like 5 women in at a time.
Yeah, so we're watching this season with Jason, and we see all these women piled up in this limo together. And I wouldn't be able to decide if I wanted to be the first one out of the limo or the last one out.
I'm telling you, you want to go somewhere in the middle just so that you know where the bar has been set and you can set it higher while still being kind of tasteful, and then everybody else after you is fucked because they're like, oh, they just did it perfect. How the hell am I supposed to make a good impression after that? What's important to note, though, important to note is how difficult the limo exits are to remember for the Bachelor or Bachelorette.
Yeah.
Jason has a fun way around not remembering names. Why don't you break that down for us, Kenzi?
Yeah, so a woman will come up, say, like, hi, I'm Lauren. And Jason responds with Lauren from... and waits for them to tell him where they're from. Like, oh, from Kansas. Oh, Lauren from Kansas.
And he always repeats it back to them.
Yeah.
He never just logs it away for himself. It has to be
It's a whole Chris Traeger situation.
Yes, gotta repeat it back exactly to lock in who's who. If you don't know who Chris Traeger is, go watch Parks and Rec and you'll understand.
Yes. But yeah, it was so funny to me because he does that so many times.
So many times. It feels like he did that for every limo exit, or at least the ones that we saw for sure.
Yeah. So what you see a lot now with limo exits, is it's a huge prop comedy bit. Like, how big can I make this? I kind of equate it to like what's happened with like prom and homecoming. Like, you don't just ask someone to homecoming anymore. It's got to be a big like promposal or whatever. And it's essentially what it is now, is with these limo exits, is they have to make this big show of things. And a lot of times, they're really gross.
Really, really bad.
Do you want to talk about Colton and Peter and what's so gross about them?
Oh, God, I'd love to. Okay, so the current Bachelor, Peter Weber, and he may no longer be the current Bachelor by the time this episode is actually published. The current Bachelor, Peter Weber, is essentially almost a foil to the previous Bachelor, Colton Underwood, because Colton was a virgin, never talked about, or at least I don't believe he talked about practicing abstinence or anything. I think he just really wanted to wait until he found someone that He thought it would be right with, which is entirely respectable to normal folk like us. To contestants on that season of The Bachelor, it was an opportunity to introduce themselves by saying something about how they were going to be the first one to fuck him. Swear to God, almost every limo exit, if not every limo exit in that season, was about how, oh, I'm going to be the one to take your virginity. Now, what Peter Weber's whole thing is, Colton was known for being the virgin. Peter is known for being the guy who fucked the previous bachelorette, Hannah Brown, 4 times in a windmill.
Which his mother was very proud of.
So freakishly proud of. I never would have imagined a mother being so proud of their child's sexual exploits. He was known for having sex with her so much before the fantasy suites, which is a specific week of The Bachelor when there's 3 contestants left, and basically, the Bachelor, Bachelorette has the opportunity to spend the night with them, and whatever they do with that time is up to them, because they actually have privacy.
Yeah, it's the only time they're really interacting off camera.
Exactly. And because Peter was known for his just fantastic sexual abilities, every limo exit for him was about not, I am going to be the first one to fuck you, but I am going to be the one to fuck you best, more or less. Or just entirely super gross. It was either about how great they were going to be in bed and how they were going to, kick Hannah B's ass at enter name of sexual act here that I don't feel like saying. It was either that or just windmills. One woman was literally dressed as a windmill. Yep. Giant windmill wings coming off of her back. It was way too much. Way too much.
Yeah. Then one woman, just brought a cow, and I don't remember the whole deal with that, but there was a cow there, and her name was actually I. But...
yeah. People can do all kinds of wild shit with the limo exits now. Now it's pull in your own car, drive in on a tractor. Back then it was sit with these women you are going to fight with tooth and nail and watch what they do when they meet the person you're trying to get to fall in love with you.
Yeah, but Jason's season, there's really only 2 limo exits that I remember and would like to talk about. Well, because a lot of them was just they went out, they went to Jason, they introduced themselves, they said how excited they were to be there.
Normal things to say.
Yes, Stephanie had probably the best one because she was just very genuine and soft-spoken and wonderful with what she said. It seemed very sweet. The 2 I want to talk about, one, Shannon. Shannon we call Tooth Lady.
Tooth Lady.
Would you like to describe why?
Well, we call her Tooth Lady partly because she is, if I'm remembering correctly, a dental hygienist.
Yes.
Her idea of the best way to introduce herself as a dental hygienist is remarkably similar to the use of prop comedy today. Now, it is at a much lower level than something along the lines of, showing up dressed as a windmill. What she did is she showed up with the fakey fake teeth. There are a couple different names for them, but those
Bubba teeth.
Sure, that's one of them. Shows up with a set of them in her mouth and has them there for approximately 1.5 seconds. At which point she removes them, goes to talk to Jason, comments on how it was probably a dumb bit, and he says something about, no, I loved it, and she goes, I believe she offers to put them back in. So
I believe so.
That means that she immediately recognized the stupidity of the bit that she chose and abandoned it. But then so quickly was like, no, let me hop back in that burning car. Let me get back in the bus from speed and slow it down to 45.
Do you think that when she was in the limo with the other women, she tried it out on them first?
I feel like she did, and I think 100% the other women were like, no, that's great. Do it. You gotta. You have to. How else is he supposed to know you're a dental hygienist? You can't just tell him. How's he gonna know you're the Tooth Lady?
Yeah, so that's Tooth Lady. The other one I would like to talk about is Jillian, and this is why we call her Hot Dog Lady.
God, the hot dog lady. The pair of queens we're holding in this poker game.
Yes. Jillian has come up with a theory that you can really determine what a guy is like and whether you would want to be in a relationship with him based on the toppings that he puts on his hot dog.
The biggest, the most telling factor of anyone's personhood.
Yeah, and so I mean, one thing that Jillian does that is smart is she says, "Come find me."
Yes.
Like, come find me later, which now puts initiative on Jason to come to her and makes him like keep her in his mind, which I think is smart. But still, this whole hot dog thing is whack.
It's very whack.
He goes in the mansion where they're having a cocktail party. Do you want to explain what the cocktail party is all about?
Yeah, so the cocktail party, as far as the mechanics of the game go, it is an opportunity for all of the contestants to try to get some time with the Bachelor. Usually, the amount of time they get at most is around 2 or 3 minutes each, maybe. You have to keep in mind there's 25 women, all vying for time with Jason Mesnick. So it's intended to give all of them a fair amount of time. The issue is people frequently interrupt each other to ask to steal Jason away. And what's fun about that happening is that the person who Jason has been stolen away from, very understandably, ends up upset. Of course.
Yeah.
The issue is there's just kind of alcohol wherever in the Bachelor Mansion. I feel like
There's so much alcohol.
there's so much of it. I feel like if I knocked over a vase in that mansion, like 3 bottles of whiskey would just explode out of
No,
it.
not even bottles of whiskey. The vase is just filled with whiskey.
Yeah, the vase is essentially a gallon jug of whiskey. So yeah, the cocktail party, the idea is either contestants get to talk to the Bachelor or contestants get drunk.
Yeah, because they don't give them food.
No, they do not. Well,
Although, at this cocktail party, there was some food.
There must have been some food somewhere.
Where could it be?
So, the one food that we know for sure was limitedly available at this cocktail party is, hot dogs. Because good old hot dog lady, remind me of the name?
Jillian.
Jillian comes in. There is a kitchen area, but for this cocktail party, that's just Jillian's area. Because basically, at first we see this close-up of some hot dogs on a griddle. We've got some weenies on the griddle. The thing is, she's making these specifically for Jason to dress a hot dog and know what he's about. But for some reason, she's made at least 6, which means...
Yeah.
And the thing is, that means more than Jason needs, but not enough for much of anyone else to get it. She did not
They're
bring
for
enough...
Chris Harrison.
Yeah, all the rest of the dogs are for Chris Harrison's energy. That's for him to refuel.
Yeah.
Because she defo did not bring enough to share with the class. And do you want to give me a quick breakdown of... See, here's the thing. The island that surrounds the stove in this kitchen is absolutely border to border covered with toppings. But we only hear about the meaning of 4 toppings. Why don't you tell me what those are, Kenzi?
Okay, so first up is ketchup. And I'm going to be reading these descriptions verbatim exactly how Jillian described them.
Got to.
So, someone who puts ketchup on their hot dog is a ketchup guy. A ketchup guy is good, strong, loyal, loving guy. Loves his mom, talks to her several times a week.
It's, everything you want. Several times a week.
Several times a week. But then we got sauerkraut.
Uh-oh.
Sauerkraut is the guy all us girls go for. He's the bad guy.
Don't even touch sauerkraut if you haven't been arrested before.
Yeah, anyone who puts sauerkraut on their hot dog legally has to wear a leather jacket.
You know they're a freak. You know.
For sure. And then we've got Onion. So Onion guy, we love him, but he never gets married, and he's kind of like that rude, like kind of and here she did not finish because she was interrupted by Naomi saying, he just smells bad.
He just smells bad.
He just smells bad.
That's just so very diminutive of those of us that like onions, either on a hot dog or not.
Yeah, you don't smell bad.
I smell very good all the time. I was complimented on my musk just the other day.
They never would have guessed that you ate onions.
They must have had no idea. Like, there's no way they knew. But what else?
I don't think there could be.
They can't.
But then, the last one they mentioned is Mustard. Now, Mustard is the guy we all want to settle down with because he's part sauerkraut, part ketchup.
I hate that. Thanks, Jillian. I fucking hate it. Because here's the thing. In what universe? I don't understand. Okay. You're going to have all these discrete, separate toppings. And the point of this exercise, apparently, is to pick one. But then you're going to cheat. You're going to cheat, and you're going to have one that's like, oh, but this one's a combo. If we were cheated out of just a shit ton of options, like if those are the only four, but then every possible combination of them is involved, and she has this very complicated, like, table spreadsheet laid out for all the different combinations, that's fine. But to have one topping that's like, nah, man, that's two of these other ones put together. There better be more like that, or no other toppings. That has to be the only cheat.
What topping do you think sauerkraut and onion creates?
Jelly.
Like, what topping is it? Just jelly?
I think jelly, because it really says something about the kind of person that's doing it. And I would like to argue now, I've changed my mind, jelly guy does just smell bad.
Yeah, onion guy, he doesn't smell bad. Naomi was
that was just hateful.
Quick on the draw.
It was hate speech.
But jelly guy, he do smell bad, and we're just trying to help him.
It's all we want to do is help, jelly guy.
That's why we're saying it. We just want to help.
First step to solving a problem is admitting that you have one. Go ahead.
But yeah, so surprise, surprise, Jason chooses Mustard.
Got to.
And I wonder if he was told to?
This is an interesting point. I think it's very possible, given the amount of sort of producer interference, basically, in this show. But if we're going to ask that question, we have to also ask, is this Jillian's true patented system? Or did the producers kind of know that Jason was hot on mustard, and they were like, no, listen, mustard's the good one. Mustard's the good one, all right? That one's got to be the best.
It's like, that's where she had relish originally.
Yeah. She didn't even have mustard on the fucking table, because she was like, nobody fucks with mustard. But then all of a sudden the producers are like, hey, yeah, no, like, everybody fucks with mustard. Like, mustard's the hot one. You want in on mustard. Everybody wants to fuck mustard guy.
But yeah, Jason's a mustard guy, supposedly. He's a bad guy who calls his mom several times a week.
That's what they want us to think.
Another woman who got some time with Jason was Raquel. And Raquel she's a woman from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes Jason aside to salsa with him, to teach him how to salsa. And they couldn't have been dancing for more than, like, 10 seconds.
Round about that, yeah.
When Molly, this blonde white woman, comes out and asks to steal him away. And Raquel, she replies, she's laughing when she says it, but she's like, no, you can't. But Jason basically says, girl, bye, talk to you later, TTYL. And Molly says, and I quote, I'm a terrible dancer, but I'll cut in.
Yeah. It's a hell of a way to steal somebody's time, huh?
Yeah, like we call her Salsa Stealer.
The Salsa Stealer.
like, this was not her thing at all. Like, she just came in and took what this woman Raquel had been trying to establish. Like, she was trying to make a connection through this dance, and Molly just took that right from her. And Raquel even said, they hadn't even gotten time to talk. They had just started dancing.
Yeah.
But then, so Jason takes Molly away to like sit in a bench or something to talk, and then Raquel comes back and steals him away again, and Molly gets pissed. It's like, girl, you don't have the right.
You started this, Salsa Colonizer.
And and what's interesting is the way they edit this, because I feel like at this moment here they were trying to help us pick a side. Seeing this situation, a rational, reasonable person would see, yeah, Molly's in the wrong here.
Yeah, but that's not the ones they want watching The Bachelor.
No. So how they edit this is Raquel comes up to see them, but like she's like right in frame, and she like walks up in shadow. Like she's way shadow, like she's sneaking up on them, and the music is kind of ominous in that moment. And then she comes, takes him away, and then Molly goes back with the other women and says something about her stealing him away, stealing him back.
Yeah.
And another woman says she didn't get enough time salsa dancing.
And that's the biggest thing. We didn't see Raquel reacting to what happened with any of the other women, but now we have these women scrutinizing the victim ultimately, and taking Molly's side.
So moving on, we've got Tooth Lady, Shannon. And Shannon, so her whole thing at the beginning was, nice teeth. Then she starts, like, listing facts about Jason at Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Like, his birthday, his son's birthday, all this stuff, his favorite color. Then she says, like, oh, and your younger brother, and then she says his name. He's dating a Shannon, right? Like, what?
Yeah, everybody, let's just take a second. And now some of you may have done this, but I would imagine that certainly not everyone has. If you had written an autobiography, this is something you could expect. Maybe. For those of us that have not, you would not expect this. Essentially, Tooth Lady listed off Jason's unwritten autobiography, and then does explain that she learned all this from his MySpace page.
Yeah, she stalked his MySpace page.
What a glorious time 2009 was.
What song do you think Jason had set on his MySpace page?
Oh, God. I'm not even sure what genre it would be for him. I don't think I have any read on him musically.
What if he's a super closeted, like,
metalhead?
Emo. Yeah.
Oh, emo too. Yeah, no, it's My Chemical Romance. It's anything My Chemical Romance.
And it's something real basic too. Like,
just say it, teenagers.
Yeah. Or no, something like crazy basic, like I write sins, not tragedies.
Oh yeah.
Get the disco, just like. Or
well,
no,
I was gonna say
Bring Me to Life by Evanescence.
Oh God, that's the one. That's it. We found it. We can't touch it anymore. That's the MySpace page where
That's
Tooth Lady got all this shit.
So Dominique, she does implants, but not breast implants.
Not the ones you think.
No. Her job is toe implants.
No, Kenzi, stop. I want all of us to just take a minute. What the hell are toe implants? Is this a prosthetic thing? Because if so, why is it called implants?
I don't know.
I couldn't even tell you if this was a joke she was doing or not.
I don't know. Okay, she does then say that she needs to see Jason's feet.
She defo asks to see his feet. Or, no, I don't think it's that she even asks. I think she pretty much just says, I'll see them eventually. And that's ominous.
Yeah, and then thankfully for Jason, someone comes by and steals him away.
Possibly the best time someone could have. The look of joy on his face when that person came and asked, you can see it. You can see the relief.
It's just the relief.
It spreads across him like butter on a roll. It's so fast. His whole fucking face is like he's tasting freedom for the first time.
Yeah. Sharon, she's a teacher. She was a teacher. Was a teacher. She resigned from her job to come on this show.
Yep.
There are other teachers on the show. They didn't resign from their jobs.
Yeah, this was entirely unnecessary.
I defo wouldn't resign from my job as a teacher.
And you absolutely should not. You don't have to.
No, like, it was just, she was so sure that it was going to be her that she just straight up resigned.
Yeah. And even kind of, I definitely think she thought that was her, like, unique factor. That was what was making her so special. The fact that she made this horrible, horrible life decision.
This terrible choice. Then we've got Carrie. And Carrie, okay, so first, usually when someone has something emotional they want to tell the bachelor or bachelorette, or like wants to share something with them from home or brought them a gift or anything, they'll take them aside and do it privately. But this woman, Carrie, she decided that she was just going to start reading him this poem next to one of the other women. Like, this other woman, I cannot even remember her name, but she was sitting next to Jason.
Just right there.
And I loved it because you could tell the editors knew that this was whack.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the shots were her, like, her reaction shots. And she was so uncomfortable.
Oh, well, as anyone would be. I mean,
yeah.
It's as if you took the famous, like, monologue from Romeo and Juliet, but now Juliet is reciting it with Romeo listening, and just his friend Derek kind of there, as she's talking about how bad she loves Romeo, even though he's of the feuding clan.
It's a more than that. It'd be like Romeo listening to Paris read Juliet a love poem.
Now, listen, let's not get too deep into the names of characters that people might not know. I'm more of a sports guy, so
a real ball nut.
I'm a real ball nut. All the football, baseball, basketball. If you got a ball in there, I'm a nut for it. So I don't know about Paris. I'd love something more like, Jim is reading Pam a sonnet.
There it is. Okay,
with Dwight just there.
I love that one, but to be more accurate, it would be like Gabe reading Aaron a sonnet while Andy is right there.
Yeah. Yep. And that sounds fun, doesn't it?
So much fun. Also, this was The Office that we were referencing.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't watch The Office, that's also on Netflix. You can pop over there and watch, I don't know, like the first 5 or 6 seasons, and you'll understand the references we've made so far.
Yeah, they're very good. But yeah, it was whack. And then this woman, after Carrie's done with her poem, says, and I have a gift for you that I will give you later.
Very good. Very good and true and clearly decided upon before this moment.
Yeah. This is not an in-the-moment thing, and she has no idea what the frick she's gonna do.
This is premeditated gift giving.
And next up we have Lauren. Lauren, the birthday girl. Do you want to talk about the birthday girl, Max?
Oh, I would so love to. So, here's the thing about birthdays on The Bachelor. Ordinarily, if a contestant goes to The Bachelor and says something like, oh yeah, and my birthday's tomorrow, or yeah, it's so great we got to spend some time together tonight because today's actually my birthday, or whatever like that. Normally, that is an easy rose grab. That's an easy way to get a hold of that rose.
Which rose, Max?
In this case, the first impression rose, which is the one that goes to the person who makes the strongest impression on Jason in the first night. What's great about this moment with Lauren, though, is Jason goes to talk to her. They're talking for like just a few seconds, and she says something about her birthday. He walks away. At this moment, we have Lauren sitting in this gazebo or whatever, so confident she's about to catch that rose. We have audio of the other women talking about, like, oh, so and so, or he's about to give her the rose, whatever, which may or may not have been happening at that moment. Who knows?
Yeah, and they also had, before Lauren and Jason started talking, already been showing clips of the women, like, stressing out about this rose.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So they're doing all that. And you know, we talk about the footage being manipulated to create storylines. Sometimes it's in a way that could be fun, but in this one it's mean because Jason walks away from her for a considerable amount of time. And then he's walking back. And now the thing is, we only see about the last, like, 8 feet of his walk back to her. And it's impossible for me to say for sure whether or not he was hiding what he was bringing behind his back or not. But I hope he was, because what he was bringing was a very small plate with 4 very, very just sickly, decrepit, depressing looking cream puffs with a candle taller than the stack of cream puffs shoved into one of them. And he said, we don't have birthday cake, but we've got this. Jason, that's nothing. Hey, bud, what you've done here is nothing. Because the thing is, these things looked fucking wretched, y'all. Like,
they looked really bad.
We mentioned earlier there not being food other than the hot dogs, and I maintain that that's the case. I do not think there was actually just a big platter of cream puffs somewhere, because what I imagine happened is, just by chance, there happened to be some frozen cream puffs on hand, and essentially, rather than having set them out to thaw, Jason just popped them in the microwave real quick and obliterated their entire structural integrity. Because these things were deflated. It makes me so mad. I'm very sorry. What is the budget on this show that you have, like, microwaved great value cream puffs as here's your birthday instead? Did you have nothing else on hand? Because the producers knew for sure her birthday was going to be the first day. They had to know. That's what they leave her with, though. No rose, just sad cream puffs.
And the thing is, they don't even eat the cream puffs. They walk away and they just leave the cream puffs on the table.
And now, part of that could be that you're not supposed to eat on camera, because that also messes with the sound.
Not supposed to eat on camera.
Who knows if that's what really happened here? That could have just been a wise decision being made about not poisoning oneself for some shitty-ass convenience store cream puffs. But yeah, after Lauren is so terrifically rose-teased, we get on to something a little bit unique for the first night, or really any cocktail party, really anything at all on this show. There's a system of voting, and why don't you tell us about that, Kenzi?
Usually what happens is that it's the bachelor or the bachelorette who chooses to give or not to give a rose to somebody, and that's how you determine how you go home. But this is what they've done at the rose ceremony is Chris Harrison comes out and tells the women that they will be voting for the person they want to leave.
Real quick, I do want to pop in Chris Harrison, America's greatest national treasure and host of The Bachelor, Bachelorette, all Bachelor products.
Yes, he's wonderful. He says whoever gets the most votes will be leaving tonight.
Now, essentially what they've done here, you know, usually on your talent shows, you know, let's say you're auditioning for America's Got Talent. Normally, it's going to be the judges there saying, you know, yeah, you get to the next round, or no, go home, you sucked. This is like that, except if the other people who were auditioning got to decide whether or not you made it through. So it's pretty fundamentally different from what the show is supposed to be.
Yeah, so yeah, these women, they all start like talking to each other and, you know, asking like, how are you voting? And most of them say that they're voting for the person that they think is not right for Jason.
That's what they say, at least.
Isn't here for the right reasons. Right reasons.
God.
They're not.
You can't. We'll break down the Bachelorette rap later on in the series. Well, some of them are talking about like, oh, I'm going to vote for the person who's not here for the right reasons, or I'm going to vote for the one who's incompatible with Jason. But then there's one woman specifically, I can't remember who points out, Shelby points out what really everyone's going to do, and that is vote for who they see as their biggest competition.
Yeah.
Though to be fair, Chris Harrison did also say you could vote for someone that you just don't want to be here.
Right, and seems like that's what the women did, because what they're talking and they're like saying, you know, asking like, oh, who'd you vote for? 4 names popped up. Well, they showed us 4 names. I can't imagine there were only 4 names that anyone voted for. But the first one mentioned was Melissa. Melissa was the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. It's very, very cute, very friendly. One woman said that she voted for her because she was from Dallas. This is Jackie saying this, I remember now. Jackie voted for Melissa because Melissa was from Dallas, and I guess Jackie was too, and Jackie tried out to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader a couple times, didn't get in. I assume she saw Melissa as competition. The next name mentioned is Erica. She was pretty tipsy. She was not the tipsiest, but she just has a very, like, big personality. Like, she's not there trying to be someone she's not, which I really respect her for that.
Oh, yeah. She's just very real about everything. And I mean, that's not to say that everybody else is putting on this facade of, yeah, no, this is who I really am, and that's not true. But I think it's just that Erica is unabashedly being very open with who she is.
Yeah.
And that is apparently frowned upon by these other women.
The next person to be mentioned is Jackie. Jackie, she was the drunkest.
Yep.
And what she shared in her drunkenness was that she broke off an engagement by leaving her engagement ring on her fiance's pillow, and left in like the middle of the night and just told him that she can't marry him.
Yeah.
And then she married another guy, and then realized he wasn't for her, and then divorced him. And we get no timeline for this.
None at all. And she is laughing throughout this whole story.
Yeah, she is. Like, rather loudly. Like, she's not trying to highlight. She's speaking very loudly.
In a room with most of the other women.
Yeah, not playing her cards well. And then the 4th person to be mentioned is Megan. Megan, she is a single mom on the show, and she kind of has this idea that alone makes her more qualified to be Jason's wife, because she kind of has this like superiority above the other girls, where she believes that they aren't ready for being they're not ready for being a mom. They're not here to they're not thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention, like, even if you are a great mom, that you still don't have the right to discredit other women's compatibility with Jason based on the fact that they do not have children of their own.
So yeah, and then she's just not very nice. Like, just the way she talks and like interacts with the other women, she doesn't seem to be very friendly.
Yeah.
During this whole voting process is when Jason decides to give out the first impression rose. And he gives the first impression rose to Nikki, who I don't remember if we even saw them talk before this. I think they did, but I can't remember like what was said. But the reason he gives for giving her the first impression rose is that she was absolutely stunning.
Yep.
Yeah, just kept talking about how gorgeous she was, like when she stepped out of the limo and all this stuff. And it's like, come on, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Then Chris Harrison comes back out to reveal the results. Instead of just doing a like, this is the person who got the most, he also did a gold, silver, bronze medal situation.
Yeah, there were tiers.
Yeah, so these are the 3 most hated women in the mansion right now. In 3rd place is Jackie. So Jackie got the 3rd highest amount of votes. And then in 2nd place is Erica. She was the one who really had the most vocal reaction to this. She had a really, guys? And then she said it smiling and she was laughing, but you could tell at her she's like, I'm just really hurt, you guys, but she was like joking it off.
Yeah.
But you could tell it. I mean, there's more to it. And then in 1st place was Megan. Let me tell you, quoted from Chris Harrison, in 1st place with by far the most votes.
By far the most votes.
By far the most votes is Megan. That by far was unnecessary.
Yeah, because this is essentially, so Megan has just won the crown. Maybe not the crown. We're essentially in a prom king or queen situation, but instead it's like the prom dunce.
Yeah.
And so now Megan's been told, not only are you the prom village idiot, but you won by a landslide in this election.
Yeah. Which I wonder, there's only 25 women. I wanna know the results. Release the results. And then Megan cusses at the girls. Oh, wait. Most importantly.
Yes.
So Chris Harrison says that the person who got the most votes will be leaving tonight, but they will be leaving with a rose. Which is not how the game works.
It's really not.
And also it's just incredibly misleading. And now this woman is staying on. She has to now live in this mansion with these people who voted her off. And then, and she also, Jason didn't choose her. So she's here not because the Bachelor wants her to be here. And I mean, he says later on that he does want her to be there.
It's terrible what's happened to her.
Yeah.
This is another scenario designed by the producers specifically to put someone under mental and emotional strain. Because now, Megan is left to question whether she is there and Jason actually has an interest in her, or if she's there just because the other women wanted her gone so bad. And she's also living 5 to a room, living with these women who potentially wanted her to get sent the fuck home because they didn't care for her.
Yeah, it's just bad all around. And then Megan cusses at the girls, and she says you, and then it bleeps it out, which it makes sense for it to be bitches, you bitches, but bitches was used earlier in the show, and it was not bleeped out, so I wonder what word it was. But then I also wonder if she did just say bitches and the producers bleeped it out to make it seem worse than it was.
I feel like that has to be what happened, because there's just, I mean, unless, okay, Now, if she had said, you fucks, like, that's alright. You shits, that's alright. Neither one is particularly common,
Yeah.
to use in that way. Which leaves the worst one. You C words. I'm not going to say it. And I don't, like, Megan is certainly not the best person. I don't think she would throw that word around like that. Would she?
I don't know. I don't like her.
We're just going to assume she did. I've changed my mind. She defo said the C word.
She said the C word. It's canon.
It's canon.
Then we move on to the rose ceremony, and first we get a transition where Chris Harrison poses the question, who will lose their chance at love forever? Which is crazy dramatic.
Very much so. Life exists outside of the Bachelor Mansion.
Yeah, this is your only chance at love. You get one shot.
Because if you don't get married, you die. It's a real Game of Thrones situation.
Win the game or die, but the game is the Bachelor.
I'd like to think it's more like, in the Game of Thrones, you either wed or you die.
So the rose ceremony begins, and two women already have roses, and it's Nikki with the first impression rose, and Megan with the big loser rose.
The biggest loser rose. That Jillian Michaels brought in herself.
Chris Harrison says, compliments of the ladies.
Really rubbing it in there, eh, Chris?
Yeah, it's rough. Real quick, I want to talk about Crazy Eyes, who was the girl with the vision boards.
Ah, Renee. You earned your nickname so quickly.
She had the most insane eyes. Y'all, I'm not kidding. Like, look at it, right? Like, go to Netflix, look at this episode, and watch the rose ceremony, and you will know.
It's like a magic eye poster. If you pause it, it's like a magic eye poster, but instead of like, oh, if you blur your eyes, you can see this, or oh, the eyes follow you wherever. I think it's just that there's no way to look at it where you are not terrifically unsettled by the fact that her entire head is 50% eye whites.
So these are the women who get roses. So we've got Lauren, and this is in order. Lauren, Carrie, Naomi, Natalie, Molly, Raquel, Stephanie, thank God, Melissa, Jillian, Shannon, Lisa, Sharon, and then lastly, Erica. So a lot of women, 10 women went home. Two of the ones that we talked about the most was Renee with the vision boards and Jackie.
And now, didn't Jackie talk about having planned a wedding for her and Jason?
Yes, she had said that she thought she'd found the man of her dreams after talking to him for minutes at most.
Hey, now, to be fair, he has a MySpace page. So
oh, yeah.
She may have known him better than you think.
That's fair. Forgive me. She talked about how she had planned her and Jason's wedding already, and then started going into detail about how she wanted it. Which people plan their wedding all the time, without having a partner. They have dream weddings and stuff. But to say specifically our wedding, mine and Jason's wedding,
yeah,
that's a little weird.
That's some girl who can't get the guy to crush back on her in a high school dramedy kind of stuff.
Moving on, that's kind of the end of the episode. Then we get a teaser, rest of the season teaser.
God, these teasers.
The teasers really are where most of the producer or editing influence comes in, because they're really trying to manipulate these situations into stuff they're not. And we talked about that earlier some.
Yeah. It's I think the main function of the teasers is to create some sort of cliffhanger, even if there isn't really one there. And so I've seen these teasers used before to show some kind of fake violence Like, it makes it look like somebody bloodied somebody else's nose or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing with this teaser is that it was really playing up the, like, importance of certain events and then playing up how much these women hated each other.
Yeah.
So what did we get first in that teaser?
I didn't write down everything. There was, of course, you know, you had the like cutesy stuff with Jason and the women. Then you had a lot of name call, like female name, like bitches and whores. Lots of bitches and whores, which are names that women should never call each other.
Well, really names that no one should call anyone, but especially women.
Right. It's just something different about women calling each other bitches and whores.
Yeah,
It's
like you should know better.
Yeah.
Men are dullards, but that's no excuse. It's just why men don't get it. But
Yeah. But the other big thing that they play up in this teaser is Deanna showing up. And Deanna is the Bachelorette from the previous season, and you may know her from hits like The Bachelorette, which I'm not going to rap for you right now.
Thank you.
I will eventually. But she shows up in one of the teasers, and most of the teaser is about this. Like, they talk about them, the other women are talking about them sitting together, talking together, all of this stuff. She's still up there. But they never use Deanna's name. Like, it's always a she, they, all of this stuff when it's like, could be about anything.
yeah. And they show at one point, they're like, when one of the women says, oh, they're still up there or whatever, they show a window on the side of the Bachelor mansion.
Mm-hmm.
But then this room that we're seeing Jason and Deanna in looks nothing like the Bachelor mansion.
Yeah, it's a completely different place.
It looks like a hotel room. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, these teasers are insane. They use so much footage from other places, and they'll put different audio over it to make it look like things that are going down are more dramatic than they actually are. And they love reaction shots. They can just use random reaction shots of people responding to something that could be put anywhere.
Yeah. Well, that's what they love. They love that essentially free space on the bingo card where they have something that they can essentially just slam into any possible situation. But it's always going to be the teasers, the ads. This is that sort of stuff where the editors are really trying to make it look like there's something so serious or so big and dramatic, when maybe it's something as simple as, like, somebody was carrying a plate full of eggs and they dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
That could be all the reaction is too. But you're seeing it
Right.
to make it look like somebody just fucking stabbed somebody.
Yeah, it's just messed up how they manipulate both the audience and the contestants and the cast on the show.
Yeah, we haven't seen any big examples of it in this first episode, but there are absolutely times where it's pretty clear that in one way or another, a producer came and talked to one person and either tried to stir up drama or tried to get that person on one sort of a specific vibe for the night. That's how they create the villains of this show. I mean, it's very possible somebody comes on as a contestant and they're like, you know what? I'll get more airtime as a villain. But I think it's also very possible that if there is any sort of a lull in the villain arc of one contestant, they go to another contestant and are kind of just like, hey, so how would you like to be the villain? Because so-and-so talked this mad shit about you. And just try to get them off on something.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is forced, so much of it is
manufactured.
Contrived. I wish we could hear the questions that the producers will ask the contestants to elicit certain responses.
Yeah, those talking head
they've gotta
interviews.
Yeah, they've got to be so leading.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's episode 1 of Jason Mesnick's season.
There you have it, folks. All the women whose names you will likely not remember, but here's the fun thing, you don't have to, because over half of them will be gone by, like, episode 3.
Yeah, they all leave eventually.
They all leave pretty quick. Time finds all of them. But yeah, shoot. There's our first episode. This one's a little bit longer than our other episodes are going to be. And obviously the other episodes we will be able to go into detail about more than just who the people on screen are.
Right, we just had so many women to talk about this episode. And then as the women get more and more weeded out.
As the herd thins.
It'll be easier to go into more detail about certain events going on.
Yeah. So, yeah, ideally, in our future, hour at most long episodes, we'll have some more stuff as far as narrative goes, and not just the exposition like this one here, but, you know, a lot can be done with exposition on a show like The Bachelor.
For sure.
So, I guess with that, we will leave you until next time. We don't have a definite schedule set up yet, but I'm sure at some point that's something we will probably decide.
It sounds like something we could do.
So, for the meantime, we're taking our tentative sign-off for a little test drive here.
At the end of nearly every episode of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or any Bachelor family of products episode, Chris Harrison says something along the lines of, the next episode is going to be the most dramatic episode ever. Which, of course, is always true. It's never been a lie when Chris Harrison has said that.
No, Chris Harrison does not lie.
He can't. He physically can't lie. He's a being of pure light and love, pure joy. But yeah, because that's Chris Harrison's outro, we thought, hey, why don't we have that outro?
Let's steal it.
Let's go ahead and steal that outro.
It's ours now, Chris.
Sorry about that, bud. Sorry you lost your IP, bud. But alright. All that being said, episode wrapped up. We're ready to go on this outro. First time. Maiden voyage for this outro.
We did it.
We've made it.
We did a whole episode.
A whole episode. Well, let's wrap that episode up. I am your author, Max Churchwell.
And I'm your analyzer, Kenzi Brenton.
And join us next time for the most dramatic episode in Will You Accept This Prose history.
One and only prayer is that someday you'll care. My hopes, my dreams come true. My one and only you. No one will ever know how much I love you so.